Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL on a daily basis. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers. The Saints wrapped up their second practice at Airline today before they head to the Caesars Superdome for another open practice Friday at 1 o'clock. That is open, which means you can go. So just take off a little early on a Friday and come check the Saints out with us. If you can't, we'll have you covered on NewOrleansSaints.com. We'll have interviews, stories, photos, everything you need from practice, and hopefully a ton of fan photos because those are my favorite. And the Saints signed so many autographs and saw so many people out of the two-lane practice. It was so much fun being out there. Energy was great. Expect the same tomorrow at the Superdome before their third and final preseason game Sunday, 1 o'clock against the Tennessee Titans. The Saints have been getting ready for that final preseason game. The ones actually went against each other, running some Titans plays and some of what they do on defense. So that was a different wrinkle. Usually you have kind of like a scout team or some of the guys that are on the practice squad that will fill in and run some of the opponent's plays. But no, they used the ones to do it this week. So the Saints got some really good work against what they expect to see from the Titans on Sunday. We had a really fun guest at practice this week, Kay Adams from Up and Adams. She was traveling all over the country, going to different training camps, and she stopped at the Saints right here on Airline for her final stop on her training camp tour. I was able to sit down and chat with her about the Saints and how excited she is to be back in New Orleans this coming February for the Super Bowl. Kay, thank you so much for joining me on the New Orleans Saints podcast. How are you?
Amazing. Wrapping up my tour in style. Home with the Super Bowl, and I saw that Lombardi right when I walked in.
Yeah, I mean, it's there for a reason because we won one, and we're looking forward to having it all back here this upcoming season. You are always involved in Super Bowl coverage. Do you have anything special planned for this year?
Oh my gosh, we're just trying to survive our training camp. No, we'll be here in New Orleans, of course. Actually, I think we're doing site surveys right now because we want to make it the best possible experience and have all of the best energy. I want to be posted up in the middle of Bourbon Street the whole time, of course. Now, we are looking forward to celebrating it. My very first Super Bowl that I ever worked was the Harbaugh Super Bowl, the Beyonce Super Bowl. So I'm super excited to feel what it feels like so many years later.
I know the Saints hold a special place in your heart. So that's why you had to wrap up your training camp journey with the Saints, right? You saved the best for last?
I saved the best for last. You know, it had to be you is the song I'm playing in my head today. Frank Sinatra all the way. It's a team that, you know, when I got the responsibility of talking about football on a national level on NFL Network every morning on Good Morning Football, I just didn't understand why the Saints weren't heralded more, weren't talked about more with their defense, what they were doing. And the city was so warm and embraced me, and it's who'd out forever. Yeah.
So you've always been a proponent of the Dennis Allen defense, what he's been able to do with this team. Mm-hmm. What are your expectations for him going into another year as a head coach?
I got to talk to him today on my show Up and Adams, which you guys can check out on YouTube, all over social media, of course, and on FanDuel TV. I loved that there was this real visceral lack of complacency. He didn't seem juiced by the defense in the past couple of years. And I'm looking at him like, we're staring at the Lombardi you had a big part of. You have been the epitome of consistency, top 10 defenses 4 years straight. Like, I know the record isn't there. The expectations are higher. He said, I don't want to be eighth. Eighth is what he wants to be top 5. That's, you know, what we want and what we expect. And that's what they did, right? By bringing in guys like Willie Gay, by bringing in guys like Chase Young, who apparently is getting the best and giving a little competition lift to guys like Cam Jordan, which is fun to see because I don't even know what another level of Cam can look like.
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit different player this year, playing a couple different positions, but he's just got to, you know, keep him on his toes. And Cam Jordan has so much energy that you have to find new ways to use him.
I think, you know, Cam's the kind of person who you want to throw challenges at him. I think he's going to take this interior move, this jump, this versatility and stride. He told me he's watching All the Best. He's cut weight. He said he feels better than him. I go, how are you feeling? I go, you look lean. He goes, I feel better than me. And I go, that's terrifying. So we'll see. You know, he's got real goals in mind. Super Bowl #1. He's a team guy. Coach Dennis Allen today called him one of the most selfless players around. And I thought that was really cool because sometimes I think the crime of being a fun, larger than life personality is that you don't get the credit for the other stuff. And this is not only obviously a leader, but somebody who is selfless. He told me it wasn't much of a conversation, him moving to the interior. He just starts watching tape and doing that. And he wants those sack numbers to come from there. He's at 117.5 career, which is insane. But he hasn't licked Mahomes. He's out in week 4, prime time. He hasn't gotten his hands on Jordan Love, but he could easily tell me that he slipped away from him in some of the action that he's had against him in the past. So he's super motivated. He told me that 130 mark is what he's looking for because he's looking at that gold jacket. And so I would say giving him an extra little challenge, a little roadblock is only going to be better for him.
Cam Jordan always likes to keep track of the quarterbacks that he's taken down, whether he says it or not.
No, he does.
He is very aware of who he still needs to get to
What's
this
he
season.
like to cover? Just insane?
You've talked to Cam a lot.
But I think if I had him every day, and I would need some major coffee in my veins. Like it's like he's a lot. He's a lot.
Yeah, he is. But he kind of just like holds court in the locker room every day. After practice, anybody that wants to talk to him, he's available, just hangs out. And he just has so much energy that he doesn't know how to turn it off. But I think he also doesn't want to take it back home because his kids are also very energetic.
I can't even imagine.
Wife
Imagine Cam Jordan's your dad.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
like an extra kid to deal with all the time.
She's the real MVP.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
all pro.
But yeah, you've interviewed him before. I know you've dealt with the Saints on numerous occasions. What has been the best interview that you've done with the Saints player?
I got to say, I love talking to Demario Davis.
Yeah.
I got to speak to him today. You know, we give these sort of wish lists to the teams of who you want to talk to. I can't imagine coming here and not sitting down with him. I always feel inspired. I think that the fascinating thing about him at this point in his career is how are you getting better? How are you getting better? All 5 of his all pros are when he's 30 plus. That doesn't happen. He had the same number of sacks as his career high just last year. Like, how are you getting better? In the world of Kuechly's been retired for how long from that 2012 linebacking draft class? He's got Levante David twice again this year, of course. And he's facing some of these guys where I'm like, when is the decline coming? What sort of anti-aging Jennifer Lopez vampire stuff are we dealing with? So, but I think as a spiritual leader, I always love talking to him about how faith-based he is. And we got today into a lot, and you can check it out on Up and Adams, a lot into his Derek Carr sort of evolution and sort of finding a relationship, common ground with him. There's no person who I would want anyone to be close within a locker room than Demario Davis. The fact that those two have connected, I think is going to play dividends. And I got to sit with Derek today, which is always a pleasure. I've interviewed him a ton. I got to say, he seems settled would be the word I would use. Settled, confident. I think he's very family first. I don't think it. I know it. And there's a lot of things that go into moving, you know, he's a veteran, of course, but moving your life, your team. I think he's got everything squared away, and he now is really focused, dialed in. The chemistry's built. I'm expecting a big jump year 2, and that's saying a lot for somebody who won 4 of the last 5 games, 14 touchdowns, just 2 interceptions. He was dialed in, so I'm expecting big things.
The way the Saints ended the season last year was definitely what the expectations were for everybody and for the players as well. They want to carry that into this season. New offense, though, under Clint Kubiak. How excited are you to see how that kind of shakes out?
I couldn't get any info, and that's when you know it's good.
Oh, yeah.
Like when you
they're
can
not showing anything right now.
No, but I asked, but he's playing everybody in the preseason, so that's a huge key to it, too. He's not, I think it's a struggle. The momentum was broken. Say what you want. It was going in, and it's one of those things. Why is the season ending right now? We're just getting good. How do you keep that going? You need the reps. You need the guys out there. You need to play them in the preseason. Coach DA seemed really adamant about that. I think that's going to play into how you pick up the momentum. But as far as the Clint Kubiak juice is what we're hearing about, I'm getting nothing from these guys. I know these guys. I'm friends with these guys. Cam won't give me anything. And I'm like, what are you facing out there? What are you looking for? What kind of motions? What kind of flashiness? Whatever. And it's just, very vague, which means it's going to be good, which means they're dialing stuff up.
The best answer that I've gotten was from Colin Saunders, one of our defensive linemen, and he said, I hate it. I love that answer. I hate going up against it every single day, but I don't have to do that in the regular season. So that's going to be somebody else's problem.
Yeah, it seems like creativity was a word that I kept hearing today from everybody all around in the building. And, he's obviously super intelligent. So to see him scheme some stuff up, you got some real fun toys out there. Alvin Kamara, if everything's great with him, and he's out there, and I saw him out there today, which was really fun. Taysom Hill's lining up at fullback. That's something I didn't think I'd see. So
he's just adding another element to his game.
Yeah, so I think there's big expectations. I was really happy to sort of watch the chemistry of Derek Carr and Chris Olave get on the same page from the end of last year, even growing hopefully exponentially more. I don't want to leap the lofty expectations, but when you're this organization and you're run top to bottom the way you are, and you know what greatness is, and you have Demario Davis and Cam Jordan barking about the Super Bowl every 3 seconds, I'm sure that is the expectation to pull the Tom Brady Buccaneers, we are going to win this at home situation when it comes to the Super Bowl. Those stories are written and they've come true.
Yeah. And we've been a part of storybook endings before.
Yes,
so
you have.
Let's bring it back this season. How do you stay on top of everything?
I don't. What do you mean?
Are you kidding me? You're just reeling stats off.
I'm a quick study, I guess. I don't know. I love football. We just wrapped our 2020 camp tour. And it's just gratitude and how cool. I was thinking about it this morning when I was getting ready to come in. I was like, there's just nothing like football. We're so lucky to do what we do. And then I think I'm inspired by the teams. I had this whole thing in the last 4, because you lose steam, you get burnt out. My team's been working insanely, relentlessly. And you start thinking like the teams think, finish. That's been a huge storyline. Everywhere I go, finish. And I'm like, well, shoot, I want to finish strong. Finishing strong became nothing I ever thought about before, but because being around through osmosis or whatever, this greatness of these teams and their optimism and how amazing, and it's like, I want to finish strong. That became important to me. I adapted it from being around these teams. So as far as, staying on top of everything energetically, that was driving me. And it's, you're only as good as your team. I am a pure... I don't know where I'm going on any given moment. That's the truth. I feel like I'm, like those claws in the toy machines. I'm being picked up from place to place. But in that, you have to trust that, somebody can lead you and you're going to be okay with where you end up. And I feel that way about my team. I think we've gone through our own sort of training camp in a sense. And, I have Matthew Hamilton, who's been my friend and producer since on Good Morning Football since we launched in 2016 and then came over with me graciously and amazingly. And we're just as a team, half in LA, half here, trying to get the best content out and really be celebratory. I love the game. I'm naturally curious, and I think that's how I sort of lead the way. But yeah, my team's effing awesome.
You've had so many stops along the way and done such incredible stuff. You started out though in baseball as a host for the Cardinals. When did the love for football start?
Oh, before that, for sure. I actually didn't know that I wanted to work in sports in this way. I think oddly, I wish I had a better story of I was a little girl and I wanted to work in football. I didn't have that. I knew I wanted to be on TV. It was natural for me. I didn't find it to be work to be in front of the camera. It was energizing to me. I wanted to work in entertainment news. But I had a big brother. We loved Matt Forte. We loved Devin Hester. We grew up in Chicago. And I think just the storylines of the NFL, there's just nothing like it. I actually started playing fantasy football. That's how I got into it, because I got into players on other teams, and falling in love with their stats. I like numbers. I like figures. I like black and white. And I really like celebrating. I like celebrating the NFL. I honestly bartended in college, and I'd work these boring happy hours, 3 to 8, making no money with 5 people at the bar. But those 5 people would be watching baseball or football or highlights. And I'd be like, I don't know, man. I think, I don't even know. I think Steven Jackson is way better than you. He's a sure to be Hall of Famer. And I would just have these natural conversations that led me to, I think, be confident and feel comfortable. And the NFL just sort of wrote me in, and I'm super grateful.
Yeah. Well, we're glad that you put this on one of your stops. And the last one, I saw you tweet about dinner recommendations. So where did you end up going?
Oh, I don't know how to say it. Pesh. Pesh was delicious. I had myself smoked tuna dip. It was freaking delicious. I had a hanger steak with the best potatoes I've ever had. My amazing coordinator, Kat, this morning said, "What'd you have for dinner?" I told her, and she's like, "Wow, a fully cooked meal, a hot meal," because we've been eating hard-boiled eggs on the go and granola bars, no joke.
You got to make time for it here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I promise you, we've had, I think I remember one sit-down meal, and it was because we had a delay. There was none of that, no heat to our meals. So when you get to New Orleans, we had a list of places that we were choosing choosing from. By the way, thank you, New Orleans fans, for just like the most amazing recommendations. Always the warmest welcome. The fact that I feel like I've won the Super Bowl, that the Super Bowl is in this city because it is so welcoming. The food is on fire, the vibe, the culture. There's nothing like New Orleans.
Yeah. And the Dome is a short walk to Bourbon if you really want to spend your whole time there.
Last time I was on Bourbon, I was dancing on a table. I was here for, I don't remember for what, but I ran into like a person with a boa constrictor, and I've never been to Bourbon since because it absolutely terrified me.
They're still out there. There are people that will be having, you can do that again if you want.
I'm not that interested in that, but because I'm terrified of snakes, but I definitely had like one too many bombs of some kind and walked into that and was like, and I'm done. But I can't wait to be here and celebrate all of that. And I'll be dancing on tables, I'm sure.
Well, what's next now that your training camp tour is over?
You know, we have a couple of fun events for this amazing partner. I mean, imagine like feeling supported through 20 camps and being like, hey, I have this unhinged idea of trying to visit as many as possible, and having the person on the other side of that say, okay, we'll support that. That's amazing. So super grateful to them. We are paying it forward to employees. We were just in Atlanta doing that. We're going to do that in New York after this. So I'm super excited. And then, you know, there's 12 teams I haven't visited. So I'm trying to see if we can make at least a visit to all 32 throughout the season. I did hear there's a Pelicans media day.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you're open to basketball, we have a team here.
Of course.
We actually have some gear for you.
Zion, let's go.
Walk out with.
Who do I get to hang out with when I come back?
Everybody will be at media day.
Really?
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. And who are the Saints playing the Sunday before? The Falcons. Oh, nice to be. Okay. All right. I'm feeling this.
We can do some more recon for the Super Bowl.
I would like
game.
this. Yeah. I'm going to let my team sleep on that, and then I'll bug them in about 3 weeks.
Sounds great.
About it.
Well,
Yeah.
we can't wait to see you again whenever it is, if it's for Pelicans or Super Bowl.
You're a great interviewer.
Oh, thank you.
This is really casual and wonderful. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks. Appreciate Kay making the time on what has been a very busy past month for her. And like I said, we're going to try to get her in on some Pelican stuff as well. As far as the Saints, that open practice Friday, 1 o'clock at the Dome. The last preseason game also 1 o'clock at the Dome on Sunday. So try to make it out to 1. The guys would love to see you as they wrap up their training camp this weekend.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast.